You're listening to Polished Woman, only on LA Talk Radio.
Good afternoon, Polished Women. Welcome to Polished Woman Show here on LA Talk Radio. So wait, last week was so heartfelt, it's heartbreaking episode. So I thought, because of my friend's situation, and all of us actually who were in that show last weekend, I thought I would want to invite someone who specializes with suicidal or any problem that we're having right now. There's so much problem and there's so much depression, anxiety that's going around the world. So I'm so happy that I found the best one. I really chose her because she's spiritual and she's a psychologist and she's beautiful. She's a polished woman. So how many times have you felt like you were going through hell only to come out on the other side of the experience stronger than you've ever had before? While none of us want that pain in our lives, we may need the lessons that we wouldn't learn without it. If you're currently in the middle of a crisis, don't stop trying to push through it. Every step forward and every new day are a winning situation. So today I am joined by the incredible Dr. Sara Neustadter, right?
Yes,
Neustadter,
yes.
A spiritual psychologist who specializes in spiritual growth, suicide prevention, suicide survivor, grief loss, heartbreak, and millennial issues. She is also the author of the book, Love You Like the Sky, Surviving the Suicide of a Beloved, the story behind death and love. Is that what it is?
Mm-hmm. The story behind, the suicide of a beloved.
It's crazy because I talk about love. This is my situation. I talk about love all the time. And then on the other side, you think about death. It's weird that how people think of that. So doctor, I'm excited that you're here. But first tell me about, you.
Well, thank you. I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah.
I do explore death and love. It's been a theme of my life and of my work. And I'm so sorry to hear about all the heartache that you and your friends have been experiencing.
Yeah. And I'm happy that they all shared it, in the show. That's why I said I need to find someone that specializes on this and really talk to us about it. So I want to hear about this.
So a little bit about my background is I got into this very young. It actually is a calling. It's not a topic that I would intentionally want to pursue, but it seemed like it found me.
Okay.
I had a sibling that was suicidal when I was young. She made a suicide attempt when she was 5 and I was 7. So I grew up under that, the shadow of that. And it's something I've always just reflected on. And then, teenage years, my own sort of struggles in my 20s were really, really challenging. And then when I was in graduate school, my boyfriend took his life. And
I saw that. It's crazy. That's why I invited you here, because for me, it's hard for me to sometimes go to a doctor or a psychologist or psychiatrist, because I always how can you advise me this if this did not happen to yourself alone? And so that's why when I saw yours, I'm like, oh my gosh, she's been through it. I want to talk to her, because you experienced the whole thing. Not even you, now you're telling me your sibling and then now your boyfriend. That's crazy.
Yeah, and to your point, exactly, when my boyfriend died and I was looking for a therapist, I was up in the Bay Area. I needed a therapist that had actually gone through their own suicide loss of some sort, because otherwise I wasn't going to be able to really believe that hope was possible, that I was going to get through this unless they had gone through it or something similar to that extent.
Is there really a hope, for people who lost someone, like my friend who lost her son from a suicidal, event? I don't know, right now she's going through hell.
Yeah, so there is hope. And I didn't think so when it was happening to me. I honestly didn't think so. And I looked for books that could give me some sort of realistic hope, like somebody that had survived something like this at a young age, because I was 29 when it happened.
Wow.
So I was looking for sort of younger sort of suicide widows, and I couldn't find anything about it. So I had to kind of get myself through it myself.
Okay.
And that was the hard part, and that's what I write about in the book. Because I didn't know if I would ever love again. I didn't know if I would be okay. my heart was so broken.
Yeah.
And, it's 10 years since it happened, and I am actually proud and happy to say that there is life on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
For your friend, she's going through it right now. She's in hell.
Yeah.
I don't know how recently this happened.
I think it was 7 months ago. Sheila, I know you're watching, so 7 months ago.
It's still really raw.
Yeah.
It's still really new, and
Yeah.
especially for losing a child, that is going to take a while. It's not something she's ever going to get over.
Yeah.
But the pain will lessen eventually.
She told me about some thoughts, like bad thoughts that curse on her, in her mind, and she would cry and of course anger, that why it happened. That's very normal, right? Because you go through I think with her situation, do you go through the five what do you call that, stages of grieving, or it's more than that for her?
Well, suicide is experiencing the suicide of a loved one is a trauma.
Okay.
So on top of going through all the stages of grief, she's traumatized.
Yeah.
And so it can feel totally overwhelming on just a nervous system level.
Yeah.
So, and also with the stages of grief, it's not necessarily linear.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not like you go through shock and then bargaining and then anger and then depression and then acceptance in a straight line. You're going through all of it up and down at any given day, at any given moment. So it can feel incredibly overwhelming.
I think that's true, because I just lost my father, and I was I'm thinking, okay, I thought it's this first, and then anger, and then depression, but I'm like this. I'm it comes and go. It just it's so hard.
It's really
hard. So how do you cope up with that? What are the things that you should be doing for you to while you're grieving, or how do you cope up with this? What are the things that we should do?
So the first thing I
and my friend, oh my gosh.
Yeah. So the first thing I would say is recognize that grieving is a form of loving. So the two are the same, and the more it's a very bittersweet, painful kind of love.
Yeah.
But it's deep and it's raw, and so to kind of honor it for what it is, because you love this person.
Accepting it, is that what it is?
Accepting that your grief is love.
Yeah.
And then also accepting that you're in hell.
Yeah.
And there are certain things that you can do. So there's different levels of hell. Mm-hmm. And you don't want to sink down to the very, very bottom of hell.
How do you change those thoughts of because sometimes when you're there, it just pulls you down, the whole thoughts of even if you say, oh, think of good things, think of gratitude, sometimes when you're there, you're it pulls you down, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever?
Yeah, you have to go down. You can't. You can't. Think your way out of this. You actually have to surrender to the pull, but in a way that's moderated. So you still eat. You still exercise. You're still doing daily things.
Yeah.
You're surrounding
Don't
yourself.
Stop. Yeah.
Stay on the upper levels of hell by just monitoring your day-to-day stuff. I would also suggest, especially for your friend or for parents that have lost a child, be really kind to each other.
Wow.
Really kind to each other, because when it comes to losing a child, a lot of couples end up separating because it's too unbearable.
Yeah.
And a way to help with that is to forgive each other, forgive ourselves, forgive yourself, and be kind. And forgiveness is a whole thing unto itself, but learning ways to forgive what happened and forgive yourself for not having been able to save that person.
And be really there for each other instead of blaming each other.
Exactly.
If you're of course, in a marriage, I believe she told us that they were having a problem, they were blaming each other, they were yelling at each other. And but then I think that transformed into loving each other more and being there for each other, and that surprised me actually with her situation. And but it's just the grieving that everywhere she goes, she has the picture of her son and bringing it. But I want to ask you, why is this happening around the world? Why all of a sudden the whole suicidal thing is happening all over the world now, and more and more are doing this.
Yeah, the suicide rates have been increasing,
Yeah.
especially amongst teens and millennials. But suicide has always been an issue. We just have been covering it up. Because,
really?
yeah, because there have always historically been more suicides than homicides,
Okay.
except the media hasn't been reporting all the suicides because there's a tendency we have to copy suicides. So if you see of suicides happening in the news, people are more likely to copy that. So it increases suicide when we see it visibly.
Oh, okay.
And so it's been covered up for a while, but now it is happening more and more because social media is really impacting kids and teenagers' abilities to develop healthy self-esteem and resiliency skills, because we're always comparing ourselves to other people's social media.
We're just talking about that.
It's like a fake reality, like that we're comparing ourselves to. And teens and our culture in general is way more isolated because of social media. We're not doing enough in community. We're not doing enough in real life.
We're not really communicating a lot now, right?
Yeah, we're communicating in this very lazy, mean kind of way.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
And it does have an impact, first of all, with our self-esteem, but our communication skills, our ability to give and receive nurturing, which we all need and have our needs met.
Yes.
The media also uses language all the time, like video games, movies, comedians, like they're always saying, "Oh, I'm just going to kill myself," like as it's a casual expression that means something. And the more you hear that, especially as a kid, if you're just hearing that from like the television, like I know a 12-year-old girl who went to an audition for a school play or something, and it didn't go well, but she left and she was telling her mom, "Oh, I want to kill myself." You know, and 6-year-olds are saying these things like, "Oh, I want to kill myself." And the more you say these kinds of things, the more it actually like sticks.
Yeah.
And you think that's an answer to whatever suffering or pain that you're in.
And be careful with the word. The power of word is very strong.
Exactly.
Don't say that. You know, if you can slap their face,
don't
freaking say that.
Be careful what you're saying around kids and teenagers, because they pick that up. And it also, whatever you speak actually creates. So when you say something, it creates it. And you don't want to be creating a future for yourself where you're going to kill yourself as a solution to not doing well on an audition or, you know, a school play, that type of thing.
Does it also affect a child when a child sees you that you're going through a depression or anxiety? Does that affect the child as well? It does.
It definitely affects it on a very energetic, subliminal, subconscious level, because they're feeling it.
Yeah.
They're feeling that depressed, heavy energy, and they kind of take it on, in a sense.
Yeah.
Because they want to help the parents who are struggling.
Yeah.
So there has to be.
So what do you mean? What advice can you give the parents out there who are, you know, struggling with their emotions, having anxiety, depression, and they have kids that they have to take care of, or they have teenagers that are around, and sometimes you can't just do anything. You're just like, you're very vulnerable. You're just there, and you know, you can't really hide it. But the thing is, for that person who's suffering, it's also hard for them to hide their own feelings. So
well, you can just be honest about it, so that it's not like a mystery. It's not like a white elephant in the room. Like, you know, if mom's having a hard day, mom can say, like, I'm just having a hard day today. And, you know, take responsibility for whatever pain you're in, whatever depression, and go find a therapist, you know, go seek help, or find an outlet for those kinds of feelings, like a boxing class or journaling, talk to somebody. I think we're all in, there's a lot of stigma around therapy, and there's a lot of stigma about admitting that we have depression, admitting that we're struggling, admitting that we have suicidal thoughts, which, by the way, are very, very common. Most people have them. We're just not talking about them. And so we just suppress them. And then it sort of bleeds out in these very unhealthy ways. And then, you know, everybody around you is picking up on it. Or, you know, kids are absorbing it. Or somehow there's like this unexpected suicide attempt.
Wow. How do you shift that energy from being, you know, depressed and having anxiety to just shifting it to just, can we just forget about it? It's easy to say, think of gratitude, think of this, think of, you know, good things. It's so easy to say that. Like, do you suggest that no, just really seek help now, or is, because I know you're very spiritual as well, is spiritual a big, a big help as well?
It can be.
Yeah.
It can be. It depends on the person.
I'm very spiritual, so I
You
think,
are?
I pray so much. I've never prayed.
Aw.
I prayed so much, but I think there's a time now that, okay, I think you have to admit that you really need help now.
Yeah, there is spirituality and there's prayer, and I'm a huge believer in a daily meditation practice or a daily prayer practice to help kind of ground you and dissolve.
We were just talking about this meditation
anxiety.
yesterday, right? Look, what kind of meditation? Is it a meditation of prayer or a meditation of just like not thinking of, like, just, making your mind like set on just a blank, like nothing?
All of the above. There's so many different kinds of meditation.
Okay.
So just consciously sitting down for, let's say, even 5 minutes a day and seeing if you can make your mind blank by just noticing the thoughts that are occurring instead of reacting to them and focusing on your breathing.
Okay.
It's hard to do as a beginner on your
know.
own.
We were trying it yesterday, I think.
Yeah. So you would want to do it with a teacher in a class or on YouTube, like put in guided meditation. There's some really good meditation teachers out there that are on YouTube.
Good, yeah.
So just start to get yourself into that groove, and that can really eliminate anxiety. But more than just meditation, I think sometimes, and prayer, and I think prayer is helpful too.
Yeah.
Really taking a good look and like reflecting on what you're feeling and admitting it.
Yes.
And working with a good, trusted therapist to help shift some of these patterns, because a lot of the depression and anxiety are patterns that we've picked up. Patterns of our thinking, patterns of our behavior, emotional patterns that come from childhood that we just need to become conscious of and start to do different things to interrupt the pattern.
Yeah. Do you believe that certain trauma from your childhood can affect all of this, or not even your childhood, but things that's happening, in your life? Do you believe that this can trigger also, your anxiety or depression?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Trauma definitely has an effect because it's it affects your amygdala, so it affects your nervous system.
Yeah.
And especially, so anybody that's had any physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, verbal abuse as a child is more at risk for a suicide attempt as they get older. And they're more at risk for depression and substance abuse.
So you suggest that if you've been in this trauma, like this, things that you just mentioned, you suggest that seek help right away, or wait until you really like there's something wrong with me, or postpone it. You can go through meditation first, or you think find the root of the problem of why is this happening to you, and then like do meditations. What do you think is the first thing that you have to do?
Yeah, and it depends on how old you are. I mean, if we're talking like 15 and under, talk to people.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Open up.
That's good.
First line is to kind of start to feel safe with somebody. It's got to be, whether it's a parent, a sibling, a friend, a teacher, like somebody that gets you. Open up.
That you trust.
That would be
right?
the first line. If you're, an adult or young adult and you have access to kind of being able to go find a therapist, I would suggest that. And there's a lot of affordable therapists out there.
Yeah, that's true. How if it's very expensive, right?
It can be.
How if there are other people there that cannot afford to, to. What is that? I just watched this Lady Gaga, what do you call that? Documentary. And she just said, like, wow, if I didn't have money to do all of these things and see what is wrong and the root of what's wrong with her, how she won't be able to do it. She won't be able to like help herself.
Yeah.
I mean, especially for people who just can't afford. Like, what can they do?
Well, there are counseling centers. So counseling centers are training centers for therapists, and you can see an intern. So they're not actually licensed yet. Okay. But they, the fee is really low. Like the counseling center that I trained at here in LA, they were charging like $16 for this session.
Okay, don't forget. Listen.
Find these local community like counseling centers where you could work with an intern. Just talking to somebody and having somebody see you and listen to you and get you can really make a difference. If you are spiritually inclined, I highly recommend yoga or meditation for like a daily practice of some sort to kind of shake off some of that like anxiety. And then there's also like I take a holistic approach. So then there's also creativity.
I was gonna ask you that.
Yeah.
How is that? Because holistic only came during like how many years ago? It's new, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this whole holistic stuff, oil, everything. What is your thing about that? Because when my husband is like, "You're so holistic. You're taking so much shit. Blah 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 blah. Maybe it's all the shit that you're taking that's making you, fucking you up. Blah blah blah. Whatever." I'm like, "What? What do you mean you're so like?" He made me stop all of this stuff that I'm taking. But I'm like, okay.
I mean, if it works, what I say, whatever works, as long as you're not harming yourself or anybody else. Like if your oils are helping you, great. I think it's like
he's like. It's not FDA approved. What the shit is that? Blah, blah, blah.
It's not FDA approved. Well, what's FDA approved, by the way, is actually what's causing suicide. So all these pharmaceuticals are the reasons why people are suicidal. So I don't know your friend's situation, but I would take a gander that that person might have been on some sort of prescription medication. And even if he wasn't, it was what happened to my boyfriend. He was put on antidepressants the week that he died. And I think that was what triggered it. So
see?
Yeah.
I told you.
Yeah.
See, I'm telling you. That's why I don't agree on taking stuff that will help you for the meantime. Because I feel after, when you're not on it, then that's when it, that's when you get crazy, right?
Yeah. So these drugs, and the New York Times came out with an article over the summer that 200 pharmaceutical medications actually cause suicide ideation as a side effect. 200 different prescription meds that we're all on, not me or you, but most people are on, are
like
causing
Prozac, all those.
And they have issued a warning label on these antidepressants that this could cause suicide in young adults. And this is a huge problem. Like I would I'd also bet that Anthony Bourdain, Kate Spade, all of these celebrities who have killed themselves were on some form of prescription medication that made them suicidal. So I would much rather, I think antidepressants are useful in specific circumstances where you really can't get out of bed and you're being monitored for suicide ideation.
Yeah.
But the way these drugs are being prescribed these days, it's making people kill themselves. So that's another reason why suicide rates are up.
Because they depend on it.
They're on medications that are making them suicidal.
How about Xanax?
I
Xanax
haven't
just
heard.
relax you.
Yeah. If you abuse it, it can mess with you and trigger that, but I don't think that's on the list specifically.
Okay.
But in terms of holistic stuff, I think it's great. Whatever works.
Like
if the
oils and stuff.
Body work.
No, I've been using like, what do you call that? Lavender. And my husband's like, what the heck is that? So, well, I breathe.
Well, does it relax you?
I don't know, but they say it relaxes you, so I put it and I inhale it. I sleep like for about 10 minutes after that.
Oh, so it's doing something there.
Yeah.
So I think that's great. And then I think massage work, body work, somatic work, you want to sort of really address all of this because these are symptoms. Depression and anxiety are the symptoms. They're not really how we're supposed to be in our natural way. We're not living according to our natural sort of tendencies. We're just bombarding ourselves with stimulus that's overactivating our nervous systems or traumatizing us. And then we're trying to manage by prescription meds. So I said whatever works, like spirituality, holistic, oils, body work. I don't think it's the solution to depression. I'm not saying that. But it's an aspect.
It's an aspect.
But
if you think that there's nothing, like if you tried oils, well, they say that CBD helps with anxiety.
It does.
It does?
It definitely does. And it does help with depression too.
I don't want to
And
take
there's-
any CBD. Yes.
Take something that you're not going to get high off of it if you take the right.
I can't even like I'm like one of those, and I know a lot of people who are scared of taking pills. A lot, like actually most of my friends are, and they're like, no, we're not gonna take anything. We're not gonna take this because it fucks you up, blah blah blah. And so I was like, okay, CBD or marijuana, but again, when I smoke, I get paranoid after.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm scared to take CBD.
Yeah, don't
THC.
take CBD that has THC. It's the THC that will make you such stoned and a little paranoid. So CBD is a whole different thing, and you can get it without the THC, and it can kind of just like calm you down. And there's
So the effect is like Xanax.
a healthier Xanax.
Okay.
It's a healthy Xanax. Yeah,
Natural Xanax.
natural Xanax. Yeah, and
Oh my gosh. How do you know they're clean? How do you know they're good or they're organic?
Okay, organic or I mean you probably know more about this, but you go to your local. Well, we're in California, so we
Yeah,
we're
because
lucky
I've
to
read
have
so
it.
much about it that CBD like really helps with anxiety. I've
Yeah.
read so much, but I think that's like my last resort. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
How do you find? How do you advise people to get in touch with the things that they feel are hurting them?
Well, it's not so much about.
Do you have to go back to that particular scenario where you had the trauma all the time, or you block it away? It's also bad to block.
Blocking it is not going to do
Yeah,
anything.
not do anything,
Suppressing
right?
it
Yeah.
is it's just going to rear its ugly head at some point
Yeah.
later. But I think the question is, it's not about getting in touch with the pain. It's
Okay.
allowing yourself, like removing the things that block you from acknowledging that you're even in pain. So many of us are just numbing ourselves and kind of going around, with internet addictions
Yeah.
and substance abuse issues, or sugar, drugs, like alcohol. We're just kind of numbing what's already there. It's about letting yourself feel what's there
What's there?
and really talking to people. Being in connection is
Yeah.
really
People that will really help you.
therapeutic.
Yeah.
Even if it's just with a friend, like
Yeah.
opening up. And once you admit it, giving yourself permission to actually feel what you're feeling, because you're not gonna die if you feel sadness. Like it's gonna be okay if you let yourself feel loneliness. But we don't give ourselves enough permission to have these normal human experiences.
Does food have something to do with it as well? I've read this. That if you're going through depression and anxiety, that you cannot eat certain foods, and like-
I'm not a nutritional expert,
Yeah.
but from the little I do know, that food does have an effect on our mood. So sugar will make you feel more depressed if you're eating a lot of sugar and
Yeah.
unhealthy processed
Yeah,
foods.
processed food,
That will
it's-
really
yeah.
affect your mood.
and I heard chocolates and caffeine. I heard it's really bad for you as well.
Caffeine can cause anxiety.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Especially, if you have more than one cup of coffee, or it will cause anxiety and sleep-related issues. So cutting back on that, especially if you're a sensitive person, caffeine can overstimulate you.
So how do you know if there's really something wrong with you inside your head or inside your body? How do you distinguish that? Like, for example, you just get depressed, you just get, like you're tired, but then all of a sudden you feel numb, you feel like your tongue is going backwards.
Tongue going backwards. Okay.
Is that like how is that like bad, like really bad already, or how do you
I'm
know that
cautious
you're
about using
Yeah.
the word like there's something wrong with you, or you're crazy.
yeah
But if you're feeling depressed
Mhm.
and you're having physical symptoms and you're not able to get out of bed, you're not able to function, it's really impacting your relationships,
yeah
it's something to reach out
To reach
about
out
and to
about.
talk about.
Okay.
We're not meant to be like that.
yeah
And on the
So
other
we're meant
hand,
to be happy.
are you familiar with Marianne Williamson?
No.
You're not.
No.
She's
I picture the book.
Yeah,
Ooh,
she's
wow.
amazing. She talks about return to love, and she's actually running for president. She's amazing. She's a spiritual master.
Really?
But she says in one of her books, Tears for Triumph, which is an amazing book, sort of a spiritual take on depression. It's like, if you're not depressed these days, there's something wrong with you. So like,
oh my God.
yeah, like because like things are so messed up right now.
Yeah.
That of course, like any normal, sensitive
Yeah.
person is going to feel
Yeah.
sad or depressed about what's happening to them right now.
Okay, so I'm gonna buy that, but first I want to talk about your book.
Okay.
Love You Like the Sky. Why? Love You Like the Sky.
So my former boyfriend had these amazing, beautiful blue eyes that were huge, and they reminded me of the sky. And anytime he'd stand up against the sky, and I would just look into his eyes, and the sky was behind him, they sort of became one and the same to me, his eyes and the sky. And so I wrote a poem about him and his eyes and how I loved him like the sky. This was before he died. And then after he died, it's just like there's this, for me, the sky is like, I feel like a spiritual sort of connection with it. And it's sort of like where we imagine heaven is when we think about heaven. And so it just became a natural title for the book.
Oh, have you ever loved again after him?
I have, just not in the same way. And dating has been a bit challenging.
Challenging for you.
I've been in a couple of relationships, but there's still was a part of me that was very protective of ever being hurt like that again. And so it wasn't fully available. And
So do you think you're fully healed?
I don't know that I'll ever fully be healed, but I've done a shit ton of work to heal myself. So I'm like 99% healed as best as I can, and it's just a matter of finding, I think, the right man.
Yeah. That will
And-
truly understand you. Oh, by the way, speaking of man,
Yes.
how do you explain to them, right, that there's something going on? Like, because they're like, I don't understand what's going on with you. Like, I don't know. Like, because I don't think they feel this. I don't feel men, because all they know is to make money and have sex. That's what they know. But they don't really know the feelings of a mom and a wife and what you're going through. Like, you know, especially, okay, I'm going through menopause, I think. And women who are going through that stage, men don't understand what we're going through.
Right.
So it's hard for them to like really understand you and what can I do? You know, what
It can be. It
Yeah.
can be. And I think men are learning, especially in LA, men are learning to kind of get more in touch with feelings and empathy. And that's where I think we're heading. I'm optimistic that, you know, all of the things that are happening in our world in terms of women right now and men, that men are becoming a little bit more aware, self-aware and empathic. So, you know, in my life, I just seek out the men that can you know, talk about things that are, you know, deep and emotional, and men who do their own inner work or have some sort of...
It's so hard. They don't like talking about emotions.
Right. Right.
Right?
It can be. It can be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why you have to have a best friend.
Totally.
Okay, so when is this coming out? Oh my gosh, I want to read this.
So this is coming out June 4th. It
Okay.
is a heartbreaking story, but it is how I survived, like how I got through the death of my
Okay, I'm
beloved,
gonna give
the
this to my
suicide.
friend. I'm gonna give this Sheila. I'm gonna give you this. I'm gonna buy this for you, my love, because I think you would need it. Wait, how about you have a blog? I have a website. Do you have any website?
Yeah,
You have-
SaraNeustadter.com, and I'm on Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sara Neustadter PhD. So
Okay, if you
anybody's,
wanna,
surviving.
you will see her on my on every what do you call this?
Every show.
Every show
I'll
on
be here.
my social media. Maybe I'll invite her all the time whenever there's
I
problem.
would love that. I would love that.
I
Thank
invite her
you.
all the time. 'Cause she's
Totally.
so polished. She's like a polished woman. I love
We
her.
try. Thank you.
Well, I hope that you'll find, the right guy. I mean,
Me too. Yeah. I
Right?
hope that I'm ready. I
maybe
feel
we
like
can
I'm ready.
exchange. I'll help you find your date. That's what I do.
You do? Okay.
I'll help you find the right man. Well, I mean, how can they get in touch with you, by the way?
They can find me on my website. So
Okay.
SaraNeustadter.com, or you can email me at Sarah@SaraNeustadter.com.
.com. Okay.
Or through social media, through Instagram. So,
What's your book? Tell them.
Oh, a book is
What-
Date Like a Girl,
Oh,
Marry Like a
yes.
Woman.
Yes, I do need your help. Yeah. That would be great.
I'm teaching a couple of women now. I think there's one that I'm teaching. I can't mention the name, but there's one that I'm teaching that advising right now. She's getting there.
Well,
Getting
we'll sign up for your class. It's just fun.
She's
Yeah.
getting there. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's all fun. So, okay, is there anything that you wanna say to anybody who are going through this emotional breakdown or
Yeah.
who are having thoughts of going through this suicidal, and because there's a lot of them, and I
Yeah.
know that maybe, I don't know, 10% of whoever is watching right now are going through the same thing. What
Yeah.
can you advise them?
So if you are feeling depressed or suicidal, I urge you to find other solutions. There are so many options out there. We live in this crazy huge world, and you just don't know yet what, like, even who you are and what could help you. So suicide is like the final option, but we think it's like one of the first couple of things that we should be doing
Okay.
in order to get us out of pain. So talk to somebody. If
Okay.
you can, somebody safe, like, explore who you are, explore life. I don't, like, even if you say you've tried things before, you haven't tried the gamut.
Okay.
There's so many resources and options out there. And so please, like, have a deep look at what's going on and see if you can navigate through it. I'm telling you, like, I have done it. I've been there
I
on so
know,
many
that's right.
levels. And, you know, especially when my former boyfriend died, I was suicidal. And if you have lost somebody to suicide, you are also
So
at
you got
risk.
all those thoughts, bad thoughts as well. You got all those.
Yeah,
Like
I
there's
was-
voices.
I was feeling suicidal
Yeah.
once he died. So you're at risk for suicide if you have a loved one that died from suicide. So something to know about that. But there is hope. Like, it's like being in hell, like you said, but there is an end, and there is like a way out of hell. You just have to take one step at a time. But really,
Yeah.
you can't do it by yourself. You need a
And
team.
I think you really have to surround yourself with people,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
With loved ones. Because I think it triggers when you're like alone.
Yeah, and it
Yeah.
does get better. I never thought it would get better, honestly. Like, I thought I was gonna just like wither up and die. But as time went by and I did the work to heal myself, it did get better. And so I can honestly say that as somebody who has lived through all
So
of that.
did you seek help as well? You never took
Definitely.
any pills?
No. When I was, when he died, I didn't take any pills. In my earlier like days when I was really depressed,
Yeah.
my 20s, I had tried antidepressants and they helped for
Yeah.
a little bit, but they didn't really do it.
Mm-hmm.
Finding like purpose and meaning for your life is really key. If you've lost a loved one to suicide, you need to find the meaning out of this for
Yeah.
yourself. No one can tell you what it is, and to find some sense of purpose for your life will help you get out of depression. So if people that have a strong sense of life purpose, they're not thinking of killing themselves because
Yeah.
they're so
Yeah,
on
like,
mission.
So, yeah, on a mission.
Yeah, but it does get better. It just takes some work.
Wow.
And it takes community. It takes people.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Thank you for coming.
my
I want to
pleasure.
invite you again if there's
Anytime.
we need more
I'd love to.
people that we can because this is what we do. We help people, we help women, and this is what is that thing that you told me yesterday? It's a one show to help.
Oh, helping women one show at a time.
I love it.
helping women one show at a time. So
Thank you
yeah,
for
so
having
next
me.
time.
It's so
Yay.
important what you're doing.
And don't
Thank
forget
you.
her book on June 4. It
June
will be
4.
out.
And you can pre-order on Amazon and all those
Yeah.
places now. So thank you so much.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. So this is for my advice. If you're going through hell, don't stop. Keep going. Don't give up. Trust God and trust that there is hope. Just what she said.
Yeah.
Just like she said, no matter what your hell is, don't stop. Find your faith. Find a doctor that can help you. Read books that can help you, or inspire, encourage, or find a book that can inspire you, encourage you, motivate you to transform your thoughts into positive, loving thoughts that are full of life and light. So for my tip for the day, I think according to Dr. Sara, you wrote this. Oh, I think it was in one of your on your website. Give yourself 15 to 60 minutes of journaling. I think that that's really good, right?
Journaling
Just-
is great. Yeah.
Yeah, journaling is great. Like just write down whatever the F you're like feeling right now, and
Yeah.
just even if you're mad, or depressed, just write it down. I think it's a good thing to do.
It's a great tool. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're
So
working on your journal.
I'm working on my journal book. So wait for that.
Exciting.
Exciting! Yay! Thank you
Yay,
so much,
thank
Dr.
you.
Sarah. Thank you, and I'm gonna have her again.
Yes,
She's so
please.
nice.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank
Bye.
you, and don't forget to give love to the next person that you see after watching this show. Cheers!
You're listening to Polished Woman, only on LA Talk Radio.